generally feel that compounding works at a more fundamental level. What compounds the most and what gives you the returns the most is the experience. If you are a creative type, you know it that you are. Definitely, marketing is a good career option for you, whether you have a degree or not. Because what is essentially happening in marketing is that it is extremely dynamic. No opinion can hold very long. The shelf life of an opinion is very, very less. If you don't have a great product, it will be very counterintuitive to use many of these strategies, right? So first get the fundamental right. You need to have a great product.
Hey there, welcome to Marketing Mavericks with IndieFolio. Today we have Prakhar Sharma with us, the head of marketing at AdaniConneX. Prakhar is an engineer turned business development head turned a marketing head, and today is leading the new business of Adani's data centers. He is a B2B champ, so I'm very excited to have a conversation with him about all things B2B, marketing strategy, and also combining sales and marketing. Thanks a lot for your time, Prakhar, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Kavan. Thank you for having me here.
I'm super excited to have you. I think we've been discussing this for some time. So I'm glad I finally found an hour in your busy schedule.
Glad too we could connect and look forward to this conversation. Yes.
Likewise, let's straight jump into it. I usually first ask the question to my guests as to how they stumbled upon marketing. Now, you've gone to IIT, you've done either engineering, you've learned business and management in ISB, and then from what I understand, even in the Adani group, you were primarily looking at a lot of business development. And then I see a sudden jump of you leading marketing and then now heading marketing for a very new division. So how did this happen? Were you always a marketer? If you can talk about that, it would be really helpful.
I started my career in core engineering and then after MBA got into strategy and business development. Now, while working on strategy projects, you often realize a big part of strategy is actually telling stories, right? It's communication essentially, because your strategy is not so useful if it is not communicated and articulated well. And that's where I started finding my inclination. Through my BD work that I did here, working with startups and other technology companies, I understood the importance of technology and how dynamic the world is. So when this opportunity of being a marketer came for AdaniConneX, which is Adani's first data center infrastructure venture, I immediately jumped on it and I got into marketing. I've been in marketing now for 4 years. There's something which I firmly believe now, given the experience, is that there is definitely a personality career fit, right? Some people might find it early, some people might find it late. You have an accountant and a marketing personalities, and if you switch them, I think the happiness for both the people would go down and the impact they would create on their work would go down. So I now firmly believe that there's something called personality and career fit. This is how I discovered my journey as a marketer.
Brilliant. I think I must ask you, a lot of people are very hesitant with change, right? It's very important for so many of them to note that you may have studied one thing, but you may be doing one thing. The market may demand something else, and you may get a different opportunity at the same point in time over 10, 15, 20 years. And it's fantastic that you've kind of been dynamic with that. But a lot of people are hesitant, apprehensive. They think their experiences and learning won't compound. So what's your opinion there? How did you decide that, yeah, it's time for me to switch?
I generally feel that compounding works at a more fundamental level, right? It not necessarily works at saying that I've been accountant and my being an accountant compounds, or being a marketer compounds. Yes, it does. It definitely does. But what compounds the most and what gives you the returns the most is the experience. So if you're starting a career early, get that experience out. Because when you look at the world from different perspectives, start building that mindset of looking at world from different perspective, that compounds really, really well. New way of always looking at things compounds really, really well. So when you effectively essentially come to your middle age, try to build a career in a one particular vertical or try to specialize into something as you go into your 30s, your 20s experience really, really helps you in thinking differently versus had you just been doing one thing from your 2025. I genuinely feel that experience compounds really, really well.
Brilliant, brilliantly put. I must also now ask you, what's your take on formal education in marketing, right? I often have interviewed head of marketings and CMOs who have absolutely no formal background, but it's the experiences which has shaped them there. So if I was somebody today who's not fully sure if I want to get into marketing, would doing a marketing degree help me, or should I get my hands dirty first and then learn over a period of time?
I think marketing doesn't require so much of a degree. I genuinely feel marketing requires a personality and an interest. If you are a creative type and you know it that you are, right? Definitely marketing is a good career option for you, whether you have a degree or not. Because what is essentially happening in marketing is that it is extremely dynamic. No opinion can hold very long. The shelf life of an opinion is very, very less, right? And very, very contextual to the experience that the person who's giving that opinion, which means you have to always be open minded and continuously be learning from first principles and from thinking grounds up. In some ways, yes, learning about concepts will help. Learning about case studies would help. Learning about what happened in what context and what market definitely helps. All of this history, all of this experience do help. There's some great work done by people in the past, and you can learn a lot from them. Thinking that the same context would apply now, being very fixed about it, won't definitely work. So it's a continuous learning journey. In some ways, formal education do help. Again, you can't look at marketing like an accountant, right? There's no fixed answer to any problem that you handle.
Whichever area has, not no fixed SOPs or no guaranteed outcomes, usually demands you to get your hands dirty. Also, it's so, as you said, contextual to every role, every company, every market, that you generally just can't expect to learn one thing and then be like, acha mujhe sab aa gaya hai. You have to learn every day. I want to now ask you about, generally, what's your core focus area today? I think leading a data center company is so new for the Indian market, right? And I could be wrong here, but you may not even have a lot of examples to follow as best practices. It's extremely new. We're doing a 0 to 1 almost for an industry. So, how does that look like, when you are in such an area which is new? If you can firstly explain to everybody, as a marketer in your business, what are your fundamental, focus areas? And also explain to me how you are looking at the entire marketing approach for this. It would be very insightful.
As a sector, definitely it's new. Good thing about new sectors is that whatever that has been done in the past, right, can all be put to side, right? Because what worked in the past will not definitely work now. And it is true with almost every new sector. What you essentially need is, again, a first principle approach towards building a brand. In context of B2B, a lot has changed in last 5-10 years. With that change in the way B2B fundamentals is still the same. Your job is to help the customer solve a problem. Context has changed a lot, right? A lot of context has changed. Today, we are all addicted to new. So if you really think of it, we are in age of newism, so to speak. Today, you have LinkedIn, wherein cost of distributing content has reduced dramatically. Previously, 5, 6, 10, 15 years back, B2B experts used to graduate or used to aggregate at events to share ideas. They still do, but they also aggregate on LinkedIn to share ideas. And it is more efficient now to communicate, to reach to those audiences, be more targeted in your approach. At the same time, with people have also understood the importance of, so to speak, storytelling in B2B, right? And people are now more open to hear about creative works coming from B2B. At the same time, you have new tools up your sleeve, which is social selling. Your customer essentially can be your employees connection, because effectively, if you look at it in B2B, most of your customer will be in first or second degree of connect, and through a first degree and second degree of connect, LinkedIn, you can reach to a lot of prospects. Now all of that is really changing the way we do B2B brand building and B2B marketing. And this is something we have tried to implement in our job. Like, one of the things that we believe in, firmly believe in, and we do here is, we believe that our job is to make every employee a marketer. Marketing is no more a marketing functions job. Your job is to enable your teams with tools, your employees with tools, so that they can become marketers and they can market products and solutions and influence the customers on social media through their thought leadership and content and so what advantage you always have in a new field, in a new sector, coming to the original question, is that you can change the rules. You don't have to play with old rules, and that is something every startup does is that they change the way they approach communication, change the way they reach. It's not just about changing the way how you create a product, that's definitely needed, changing the way it is communicated to. And that's what something we have tried to do through some of our work here.
Yeah, you touched upon B2B, and that's something I wanted to follow up on with you. I love that you're saying that the audience has changed. Storytelling is so important because traditionally B2B is supposed to be boring. Even when I sometimes work with some clients and our network sends some nice ideas, like नहीं ये बहुत cool है हमारे business हमारे clients के लिए. And I keep on, I think we had a quick discussion a few weeks ago, and you reminded me about the Microsoft ad about Excel, where these folks go into a lift, and there's a very nice premise, builds anticipation, it has storytelling. It's typically what you would call a very nice digital film, or whatever, that time probably a proper ad, a brand film, which was used to promote a B2B product. So I fundamentally believe that you know uh, it's not boring and it shouldn't be boring. So when you say B2B marketing, could you unpack that a little bit more, right? When you say that we have to do storytelling, we have to leverage content, from a B2B lens, how have you done this a little bit differently than what traditional B2B marketing looks like?
Storytelling in B2B is often overlooked. People have relied often on technical or rational way of communication. They have never tried this peripheral way of influencing people through emotion. Though, if you talk to any sales guy, the sales guy would tell you that emotions play a very crucial role in deciding a product. Because in many cases, products, even in B2B, the differentiation is very limited. Differentiation usually gets built on a lot of intangibles, right? And those intangibles are usually target the emotional side of a person rather than the core core feature of a product. Now, and this is something which now the world is really picking up with LinkedIn, and there's a lot of lot of conversation that I see happening, a lot of new ideas. We did one of our campaign for our CIOs, wherein we showcase how our product makes the day better for a CIO, right? And we showcase his life of how challenging it is, and how a product fit within the whole journey, user journey, can really become very impactful to their day. This is just one idea, but if you think of a different customer segment like an HR. If your product is here to help the team solve a user onboarding problem or employee onboarding problem, the person is going through a lot of emotional drama when they're using their existing process, be it an Excel or be it an existing tool that they're using. Maybe they're juggling through 10 things at the same time, right? Those metaphors are a great way to, you can exaggerate those stories, create a tons of humor in it, and position your product at the right time so that it solves for that exaggeration. Now, this way, you are reaching to your audience not just centrally through a rational way, but in a very informally, very peripherally through a very emotional way and a fun way. And LinkedIn would love it. LinkedIn would share it, right? Because LinkedIn is looking for corporate humor all the time. Whatever you say, you don't want to be. Everyone is a human. We can't. We are not too serious all the time. So everybody's looking for a way in which a corporate humor can be, and if you can fit a product in a corporate humor, I think you have a good storytelling framework there.
I want to follow up on this one. So I fully agree with you. I feel that these are important acts, and as somebody who does sales in my company, you may build credibility and trust through your technical data, but conversion to आदमी पे ही होता है, is what I fundamentally believe. कि do I trust this guy or not? At the end of the day. So while that's the case, Prakhar, I'm imagining your ticket sizes must be very large. You're looking to do, a lot of enterprise selling essentially. So, um, wouldn't if I were to look at it critically, when it comes to making a decision, brand saliency, loyalty, how they feel when they saw that content of yours may not really matter. Where, let's say, if there's a decision making committee, and you're, let's say, tapping into one of them, the remaining people may just be like, yeah, okay, this doesn't matter. So wanted to ask you, what's the trade-off here, right? Because are we saying that, hey, focus on content and everything else will follow, which is what happens a lot in B2C, कि तुम्हारा प्रोडक्ट ठीक ठाक है, if you do marketing well चल जाएगा. But is it the same case in B2B, where if you feel that, hey, what's the trade-off between my actual technical data and content versus my top of mind brand marketing kind of content?
Very fundamental in marketing is that communication cannot solve a broken product, right? In fact, it will make it worse. So if you overpromise something in B2B, you will penalize a lot more than in B2C. B2C too, right? They won't make a second purchase if you are overpromising something. In B2B more so, right? Product has to be great, and that if you don't have a great product, it'll be very difficult, or it'll be counterintuitive to use many of these strategies, right? Because so first, get the fundamental right. You need to have a great product, right? Second, I think we like to believe that we are rational, and then you made a point about how committees, right? They think they are rational. They are not. The most rational decision that you ever take is always influenced by emotion, because, and especially when decisions are complex. It's a multivariate problem if you really look at it. You can't optimize all parameters anyway. So you eventually rely on your gut, and that gut get influenced through emotion. So I understand that there is this belief in B2B segment wherein we like to believe that rationality plays a very, very important role in decision making, and we are all rational. I'm going to decide the vendor or a partner who is the best. Yes, they are the best, but the definition of best get defined through relationships with the sales team, relationships with the brand, and salience. Now, if I unpack this really further, right, your brand marketing definitely helps you in the early stages of the funnel, building that top of mind recall. Like when the user realizes, the trigger moment happens and the user realizes, I have this problem. There are 20 vendors in the market who can solve this. The user will start researching on the web, or the user would remember a certain ad they would have seen and build a top of mind list. Now, this preliminary list is the first gate that you have to cross. And that's where brand marketing and content marketing can play a tremendous amount of role. Getting into that first final list, a list of finalists, so to speak. Once you reach the list of finalists and you are in front of the buying committee and they are rationally trying to break and everything, I think that's where the marketer's job in B2B is to work very, very closely with sales and create personalized influence, create personalized content that influences them and nudges them a bit towards the brand. What we are seeing is that the differentiation between one versus the other often comes from very, very subtle points. These subtle points could be as simple as the culture of a company. Right? If you're a consulting company, and you can actually differentiate on your culture very much. And if your job is to provide services as an agency, culture is a big differentiator, because that culture becomes a nice way for you to articulate the product value proposition and the differentiation that you bring. It can be a culture of excellence, it can be a culture of innovation. Similarly, a small thing can be sustainability. It's a very small thing, but today sustainability is becoming a key differentiating communication factor for. It can be service, right? Very small things about how our service is better. It can be solutioning, your ability to be flexible in adopting to solutions. So as marketers, your job is to find those stories, whether it's a story around better service, it's a story around your culture, it's a story around sustainability, it's a story around your ability to customize solution, and then unpack that in front of your customers. And I think they really value it. These are all intangibles, right? It's not a rational way of just deciding A plus B plus C, AX plus B, Y plus C, Z, right? This intangible really gives you a weight.
In B2B marketing, what usually have you seen is a very effective distribution channel. At one end, it could be, like you said, your sales folk. The other end, people say LinkedIn. The people also say blogs banao, articles banao, etc. Make a resources page, right? So generally, what have you seen really drives actual results in B2B marketing?
There's only one channel in B2B marketing, it's people. It's people who are using LinkedIn. It's people who are attending events. It's your people who are doing everything. That's what I said. Your job is to make everybody in your company a marketer and start internship within your team. Encourage people from other department to give you ideas and collaborate directly with them. That is the most efficient channel. Because as I said, in B2B, most of your prospects will be first or second degree of connect in LinkedIn. A second degree of connect is a huge market segment. A third degree of connect is almost half of the world, or slightly less. For you to be able to leverage your employee network, sales network, leadership network, your HR network, your becomes a great way to really influence your team. So again, the bottom line is your job is to make every employee a marketer, arm them with content, give them the opportunity to present, give them a chance to showcase the USPs. It could be a very simple thing, as small as a small CSR work that you did, right, to a small, like a innovative, like a employee campaign that you did within your company, showcasing your culture. It can be about safety of your product. It can be about compliances. It just all adds up, right? So again, people. Now, definitely from a digital standpoint, right? We still believe that digital plays a very important role today in terms of capturing this top of mind recall that gets built. So Google works, LinkedIn definitely works for your lead gen. Events are a great way for you to build new connects, and direct sales for sure. Without a doubt, direct sales in B2B works a lot more efficiently because of the nature of our organizations, right? And it also depends on nature of product. So all of it, I would say, it's very contextual to what problem or what product you're trying to sell.
Talking on teams and people, you're head of marketing, you have an entire department and a bunch of people to look at you. In your experience, what makes an effective marketing team?
I think best teams are diverse, without a doubt. You have to be diverse. That means you need to have an artist within your team. You have to be hustlers. You have to be builders in your team. You have to have young people, old people, tech savvy people. And I think this diversity is what brings, I think, efficiency and new ideation that you see within the team. Obviously, the other things is your ability to rely on each other. Marketing as a profession is very entrepreneurial. Every person stands and supports the rest part of the team. There's one analogy I like to use a lot. Marketing is almost like a football match, wherein your job collectively is to do the goal. It doesn't matter whether the goal is done by A or B or Z, but your job is to ensure that eventually the goal happens, which means the lead would come. It might come from A, it might get passed on to B, and then you will have content marketing, performance marketing, trying to pass on the ball to nurture it, and then you would have a sales guy in the front who would eventually might make a goal, right? But it's the mindset about thinking it like a team sport and not thinking like a